Hi everyone, my name's Joe.
And I'm Mike.
And you're listening to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? The podcast. And this week we'll be reviewing Hacksaw Ridge.
Ah!
Oh, don't worry, Mike. It's not a horror movie.
But it's directed by Mel Gibson!
Ah! Hey everyone, and welcome back to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? Featuring two guys getting into their pajamas and reviewing movies in a weekly podcast form.
Thank you to Dan Martin on Facebook for that. Dan Martin, please stop sending us synonym suggestions.
You're too helpful.
So many. We're kidding. We love you, Dan Martin. Please continue to send more.
Some of the best.
But we got a lovely guest between us.
Who's this boy?
A lovely
this
guest.
night, and you can see him for the first time on video now.
This is the first time I've ever been on video.
Ever.
It
was definitely not in that short film that we worked on.
Yeah, you
Who was that?
this.
Who was that? Who was that guy?
Who's done this?
Who's done this?
But back from California, just for us, not for the Christmas holiday.
Came back.
Flew back just to be on this episode. Nick Aucello, or Tumbledore.
I just got in an hour ago, leaving in an hour.
Glad we could squeeze you in.
Catching the red eye.
Mm-hmm.
But Nick has been on previous episodes such as The Night Before, The Force Awakens, Green Room, Ghostbusters.
But my
the girl version.
My biggest achievement is being one of Riley's guys.
It is.
Hashtag
Riley's guys. Nobody ever wants to talk about Riley's guys. Riley, do you still listen?
What do you think of all the new guests we've had? Are any of them Riley's guys?
Are these guys Riley's guys material?
Can you sort them in a scale from 1 to cutest?
Yes.
Yes.
If you had to say who's the most Riley's guy, we've never gotten the answer.
But I think Nick has taken the crown for the most appearances on this podcast. So.
Yeah. Imagine if I wasn't
golf clap for
if I wasn't in Cali.
Right?
Probably. Nick would be like doubling the.
I feel like I'm always the fallback guest.
Hey Nick, what are you doing?
He hasn't
You
fucked
know
up
I'm-
yet. Bring him on.
Yeah, no, yeah.
You know I'm not doing anything.
You haven't pulled a Kevin on Suicide Squad yet, so
It's Kevin.
we're letting that breathe for a while before we get Kevin back.
Sorry, Kevin.
Kevin needs to move out to Cali.
Kevin needs a Cali breather.
Kevin needs to stop screaming on our podcast.
Well, you guys should scream on Kevin's podcast. It's
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. But you can find Nick at twitch.tv/TumbledoreZ.
Yep.
Did I get that right?
You got it right.
He's back streaming on Twitch
I'm
again.
back.
Oh, what's that
I'm
Twitter?
Back.
I'm back. Maybe one of the most iconic Jordan lines.
I
and
know.
we said it to Jordan the other night, and he's like, "What's that?" And we're like, "That's you." That was like the
said
funniest
that.
thing you've ever said.
Oh god, I cracked up laughing when I heard that. I love Jordan,
Oh, me too. We need to get him back on He hasn't been on video yet.
Get him on camera.
Yeah,
but he is camera.
He is.
he is. We're all camera. But the brew that we're drinking this week is Victory Berliner Weiss.
Berliner Weiss.
Berliner Weiss.
Weiss?
With elderflower.
I feel like Victory is kind of an ironic name.
And it's a Blackboard series. There's a lot of text on this bottle. But let me tell you a little story about how I was having some boys over on Friday.
So this is a story all about how
My beer life got
beer life got
turned upside
down.
Great parody.
But I feel like if you listen to enough of this podcast, I'm always like trying to like, listen, it was in the sale aisle and that's why we're drinking a summer beer in the dead of winter. But I think this is also expired beer.
Which is why it's on sale. It was released in
2016?
March of 2016.
Does beer go stale that quickly?
Oh wait, no. Release number 3, year 2000. I thought
What does that even mean?
Yeah, I don't know what that
I don't
means.
know. It made more sense when it was a month.
Anyway,
It's the third beer released in 2016.
but anyway, I saw this, and Victory Beer is a pretty good beer, and or a brewery
Victory beer.
in Pennsylvania. Hey, where's our beer sponsorship, guys?
I don't know. They're all voting for Trump.
No, that's Yingling. Mike, do you not buy Yingling anymore because of that? I noticed
I've switched to Heineken a little bit more.
Yeah, I always see a Budweiser and Heineken, and I was like, wow, I still buy Yingling.
But I also like to just switch it up more.
Here's the thing, like, I get angry at companies for doing horrible things. Like when Chick-fil-A came out against, gay people, I was very angry, but I remember going to Chick-fil-A with Joe that weekend.
They were like, this is really delicious.
This is really bad, but I'm really craving Chick-fil-A. So when the whole Yingling thing came out, and I'm in California, it's due to Pennsylvania's really dumb import laws, it's illegal for bars to sell Yingling in California.
Really?
There was a bar on my street that did for a while, and then they got a huge fine for selling Yingling the week before I came out. So I've been away from Yingling. So when all that came
Easy
out,
to protest.
when all that came out, no, I was protesting, but at the same time, I'm like, man, I really, really want a Yingling right now.
It's such a great beer.
It's great beer.
But yeah, no, they had these 24 cases of this beer for $11.99, and I was like, that's a really good price for Victory. And I bought 2
That's
cases.
a low price.
So I doubled down, and I bought, what is that, 48 of these beers.
And we're going to drink all 48 tonight.
Right, Mike finishes the fridge.
And it was like when...
Every time an alarm goes off, I'm going to chug a Victory elderflower.
Oh, God.
Because we had a party here on Friday, and I don't even think we broke into a second 6-pack of this.
I had one, and I was like, that's enough.
I know what it tastes like now. That's fine.
So describe the taste of this. It's
Sour.
yeah. It's,
I don't even know what elderflower is. So I don't know.
it's like a
Sounds like something you
Swedish
find
beer.
in like a fantasy game. Oh, pick the elderflowers for the
It sounds like
potion.
something from Fable. Yeah.
Like, don't they have like elderflower soda or something at like IKEA or something? Like
Probably.
it's a very
I
like
wouldn't
That
buy
sounds
it.
like
yeah.
that sounds Swedish.
It's
It's almost
sour.
it's like a sour. Yeah, it's like a sour beer.
That's what it is.
That's really all I can say. It's just sour. Well, I mean, it's an actual like category of beer is sour beer, but
Yeah, that's all. It's just a sour beer, and it's not the worst sour beer that I've had.
No, it could get worse,
But
it's not a beer where you want to go in thinking, "Oh, I'm going to go heavy on this
I
one
can,
beer."
I can see
tonight."
why it's on sale.
Yeah.
yes,
But sponsor us anyway, Victory. I like your other beers. Your IPA is great.
Hey, not everyone can be a Victory.
you know what? These guys are honest.
Sometimes you lose the battle, but you win the war.
Isn't it a good thing that I thought that was like, yeah, they're positive. I don't know. Fuck it. Let's get into it. Mike, read me that IMDb description.
Yes, sir.
Oh my God, there's so much of it. This is 2 sentences.
World War II American Army medic Desmond T. Doss, who served during the Battle of Okinawa, refuses to kill people. It's a weird line. I won't kill people. And becomes the first man in American history to receive the Medal of Honor without firing a shot.
Wow. So I'll just go into the little amount of Joe notes I have. This is directed by Mel Gibson.
Yay.
I'll get into him in a little bit. But
More
this
on that
was
later.
nominated for 3 Golden Globes, including Best Motion Picture for Drama. It joins the ranks of Deadpool's, which is also nominated for Best Motion Picture.
Great movie.
Comedy / musical. But yeah, Best Motion Picture Drama, Best Performance by an Actor in a Motion Picture, Drama for Andrew Garfield, and Best Director Motion Picture for Mel Gibson. And, some of the aggregate Oscar prediction sites have, they think a nominee for Best Actor for Andrew Garfield in the Oscars, Best Cinematography, Best Film Editing, Best Sound Mixing, and it's predicted to win Best Sound Editing. And that's a lot for this.
Yeah.
That's a lot more than we even, we wanted to see this movie just because there was like 2 sound awards. I think it was sound mixing and sound editing.
It's been trending upwards heavily lately, and I don't know if that's just from other movies
How?
having to fall off at this point. I've seen it take the place of Sully in like numerous categories.
I would say the sound editing was fantastic.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. But it's just like weird, like Andrew Garfield is getting an acting nom for this because he's also like the lead in a Martin Scorsese film this year.
Oh, Silence.
Yeah. And I don't know what's been happening with that. That's kind of been falling
Silence
off.
has been falling off a little bit too. Yeah.
Has it premiered yet? Because I really want to see that.
I don't think so.
Why couldn't we have reviewed Silence?
There's supposed to be like an extremely limited release this week, I think, sometime.
All right.
We probably won't see it. Till
That's what they did with Ben Affleck's new movie. They said like an extremely limited release.
Oscar
on Christmas.
release, essentially. Oscar.
Ben Affleck's Friends and Family. The best movie I've ever seen.
Everywhere else.
Ben Affleck does it again.
It's
Casey
better than
Affleck
Argo.
says, Ben's my brother and I love him.
He's
Benjamin
trying.
was so good in this movie.
Ben's ma says, I love my Benny. He made such a good movie.
Matt Damon says 5 stars for Ben.
I wrote this movie for Ben.
My pen name is Ben Affleck.
Oh man. So there's a bunch of like really weird I just picked up
Really weird cast.
I just picked up like a bunch of the weird like IMDb like trivia. There's a bunch of, first of all, they said like this film has had a 14-year path from idea to production, according to an article in Variety. And I hate this new trend of saying stuff like that, because I'm really not interested in how long Mel Gibson's been like kicking this idea around in like his brain after like reading an article or something.
Well, I think actually people were trying to get him to, the producer, I forget his name. It was like the one fact I read was that they had been begging Mel Gibson to make this movie forever, and he was like, "No, I don't want to make it."
Still, y'all motherfuckers not making Boyhood. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like it's like I don't care that it's been in like production or what's it called, like development hell or whatever. Like it's I don't know. They've been advertising Silence the same way. The Martin Scorsese film. It's like it's decades in the making. It's kind of like Martin Scorsese had this idea years ago.
Martin Scorsese's passion project is if he didn't enjoy the other fucking movies he made.
We had trouble funding this movie.
Departed. That was just for the
Just a fucking commercial fucking film.
Departed for the man.
Departed, sponsored by Target.
Where's the heart in Departed?
But this is the first film directed by Mel Gibson in a decade since Apocalypto in 2006, which was actually a pretty good film.
I love
liked
Apocalypto.
I loved it.
The film received a standing ovation lasting 9 minutes and 48 seconds at the Venice Film Festival in September 2016, period. Mel Gibson timed it himself.
I hate these things where they talk about how long the standing ovation is, like, because obviously probably like the actors are like walking on stage at that point, so that's like, otherwise why would you clap for 9 minutes? Like, no movie is that good.
Especially this
Your
movie.
hands start to hurt after a certain.
Mel Gibson's like, all right, and that was 9 minutes and 48 seconds. Anyway, yeah. And here's some great Mel Gibson quotes. One aspect that appealed to Mel Gibson in making this movie was that it contained a, quote, real superhero without the spandex.
Spider-Man, right?
Yeah. Believe it or not, we got heroes in our real world, and they're not just metaphors.
So let's cast Spider-Man in the role.
They don't wear costumes; they wear uniforms.
You still got that Boston accent from...
No, we just did.
It's just going to be Boston accents all night, guys.
You're not a fucking cop.
Tune in next week for Manchester by the Sea.
Yeah, and this is rounding out near the end. Mel Gibson stated that if Desmond T. Doss were alive today, he would want him to be president of the United States. Why is that?
I mean, to be honest, if we think about it, same.
Preach.
Such a dumb fucking quote. Also, Desmond T. Doss had passed away, but when he was alive, Doss said that he had no interest in motion pictures and didn't want his story turned into a Hollywood movie.
Oh yeah, I have a note about that later. We'll get into that.
So, fuck you, Desmond T. Doss. Oh boy, and that's the extent of my Joe notes. I mean, there's an interesting cast.
Yeah, very.
And we can get into that. But yeah, let's start talking about this movie. Because the opening of this movie is just bad scene after bad scene.
Can we do theater experience? Or?
Yeah.
Because
you saw this today.
I
Tell
saw
me
it
about
today.
your theater experience.
I saw it with my 92-year-old grandfather, who was a veteran in World War II. Not the Pacific theater, but I think Italy he was in, and Ethiopia. But walking in, the theater was filled with Japanese individuals. No. The whole theater was just full of more than I thought were in my area. So I was like, oh boy. I'll get more onto that later. But yeah, so it was it was pretty cool seeing the movie with someone who went through World War II, because he had a lot of interesting thoughts about the movie. But yeah, that was my my theater experience of earlier today.
What are some Grandpa Nick quotes?
Well, he said it was...
Grandpa
Well, he kept
Nick.
on saying,
Is his name Nick, too?
his name is Vince. Grandpa Vince.
As
He
an
kept on
actor.
saying, because it was weird. At Christmas dinner, he kept on saying how kids today don't even know what World War II was. They don't even understand it. They don't know it existed and stuff. And
So he was
no,
like
I
TV
think we
grandpa.
did. Yeah. And then I'm home for 5 days. I haven't seen my grandpa in a while. He's 92, so I try to spend a lot of time with him. I'm like, hey, I have to see this movie tomorrow. Do you want to go see it? And he's like, he got really happy. Well, he wasn't actually happy, because he's very skeptical about World War II movies, because he's like, oh, they never understand it, or they can't get the battles right. But he did say the battle-wise, it was the most accurate World War II movie he's ever seen, because his big thing is they gloss it over. They hold back. And he was like, no, this movie didn't hold back. This is what it was more like.
Over Saving Private Ryan?
Yeah. But then, of course, he kept on complaining. He was like, I don't care about, him kissing the girl. I just don't care about that. Just get the house. And then,
I had
coming
the
after
same
it,
complaint, too. So.
and then, coming out of it, he was like, yo, that Mel Gibson, my grandfather, he doesn't call them movies. He calls them pictures.
Movie
So he's
pictures.
like, yeah, that Mel Gibson puts on a good picture, a good show. And he's like, that Passion of the Christ was very historically accurate as well. He's like, that's what he went through. I'm like, I didn't say this. My inner thought was, didn't they prove that he would have died a while ago from the torture? But he was like, yeah, but he really does put on a good show. Never cared for Braveheart, but
Not enough America in it.
Grandpa Nick.
Grandpa Nick.
Grandpa Nick.
But I'm glad he did enjoy it, and I did think.
Didn't you see American Sniper with him too?
I'm not going into that.
I wish we could have reviewed American Sniper on this podcast.
Oh God.
Anyway, yeah, the beginning of this film is...
War porn.
No, the beginning of the film is in complete contrast to the last half of the film.
Yeah.
And it's bright and literally
It looks like a Disney movie kind
It
of.
really does.
My first
yeah.
complaint is that the music sounds exactly like the music from Chronicles of Narnia. And then I look it up, and it was composed by Rupert Gregson Williams, who is the brother of Harry Gregson Williams, who composed the soundtrack for Chronicles of Narnia.
I couldn't think of Harry.
So, Rupert, stop ripping off your fucking brother. Rupert, write your own music.
No one will ever know if I just change a few
They're British. I
notes
don't know why I'm
around.
putting this accent on.
Hey, yo, Roop.
Quit ripping off your brother.
Rupert, leave your brother alone. God, I don't know what that was. Welcome to Bad
Mom, you
Accents,
stole
the
my
podcast.
Yeah, but it's I don't know. From the beginning, I was so weirded out by how like literally even just in the color grading in the beginning is like bright and like literally rays of sunshine in like these outdoor scenes. It feels like we're going on like the beginning of like an adventure, which is the parts that mimic the soundtrack from Chronicles of Narnia are from like the beginning of the movie when they're like things aren't that dire yet, and they're like going through like the door and being like, oh, there's this magical world through the cupboard and whatnot, and it just completely doesn't fit with where the movie ends up actually going towards the last half of it. It's very strange.
But let's break down the beginning of this movie because it goes through a lot of hilarious scenes.
Forrest Gump.
First we have slow motion war porn. And there's a whole lot of flamethrowers.
The very first.
Yeah. He goes crazy with.
There's a whole lot of flamethrowers in World War II in Mel Gibson's mind. Everybody has a flamethrower. Everybody in World War II was on fire, all at once.
It was really like a segment of people on fire in the beginning.
There was just like Mel Gibson maybe like put out some sort of like casting call for like any stuntman who's ever been on fire. I have a job for you. And like there was no casting room. He just hired everybody and lit them all on fire. And he was like, run around.
It's the most work we've seen since Backdraft.
And yeah, it's just a lot of slow motion violence. That's how a movie opens. And then, I mean, I'm kind of blurry a little on how the scenes. I mean, then we have Andrew Garfield's dad, who's drunk by a grave. Oh yeah. It's what's his name?
Hugo Weaving.
Agent Smith.
Yeah. And
Elrond.
he smashes a liquor bottle in his hand and bleeds onto the grave of like a fellow veteran.
Well, apparently he just regularly just gets drunk in front of graves
and just tests his strength with like glass bottles, and he's like, and makes them metaphorically blood drip down the gravestone. And then we get into a scene where Andrew Garfield and his brother, they're running around and they're having an adventure, and then they're like in a little tiny like fist fight, and then all of a sudden Andrew Garfield, the smaller Desmond Doss, the younger,
decks him with a fucking brick.
Yeah, fucking smashes his head in with a brick, and I said like, whoa, this is about to get real. This is why he's not going to use weapons, because he just like killed killed his brother. He collapsed his skull probably. And he's completely unresponsive, and they've laid him out on the kitchen table, and the dad looks like he wants to fucking kill Desmond Doss. It's the most cliche, like, the wrong son died. Like, it was just, like, the most, like... And then... so he stares for a very long time at a poster that they have of the Ten Commandments.
And, like, it had a picture of, like, Cain and Abel, like, bashing each other's heads in or whatever.
Yeah. And he just stares at it for a very, very long time. And the parents kind of act around him. And he's like, I'm going to kill that boy. And she's like, no, he's had enough. Kind of like.
That's kind of
when the same scene where in slow motion, Hugo Weaving comes over and he's like, now I'm going to have to beat you.
Yeah, it is. And he's like, has a belt whipping.
I died at that scene.
Now I'm going to have to whip you.
That was the scene where I realized, oh, this is going to be a religious thing.
And then brother, unresponsive, on the kitchen table, head smashed in with a large, not just like a brick you build a house with, like a large fucking brick. And then next scene, both brothers laying in their beds, one has a bandage on his head, and it's like, I love you, brother. I love you too, brother. And it's like, there's no resentment. There's no nothing. What was the point of that scene? It was just fucking bizarre.
It also doesn't end up being the source of that like whole belief either.
No, yeah.
Pick one or the other.
There was no payoff. There was just the brothers.
I mean, they couldn't kill off the brother because the guy was. I mean, he was alive. Like, he didn't die there, but
yeah.
Thematically would have made for a better plot device.
I mean, there's a lot that I feel like we didn't need to go through in like the beginning half of the movie, and like
so much.
Like your grandpa said, I completely agree with him. I didn't need the whole like romance storyline, because the story of this movie, whether it's a good story or not, that's up for debate. But the story of this movie is about this interesting footnote in American history of a conscientious objector who got the Medal of Honor and truly did some heroic things. Is that really dependent on him finding a girl in a hospital and like courting her?
That he's rapey with?
We're talking about like with the hospital girl, and
That he makes advances on against her will.
here's the thing. Why are, like, in most movies, guys get girls by just sort of like not saying anything and just staring at them with dumb smiles and like nervous,
yeah,
like
when he would just like
I'm gonna
look at her.
marry you.
Oh, man.
Well, it happened.
His family's like, and that's the first girl you ever met that's not Ma. And it was like, how charming. You're going to marry this girl.
I'm going to marry her and throw myself at her at the movies. I'm just going to stare at her, not the screen. No.
Yeah.
Oh god, I can't take his big hair as well.
Oh, like, his hair's enormous.
It's distracting.
Just, I think it's an admirable effort from Andrew Garfield, but I think somebody in casting fucked up.
I think it will, again, like most, I think the second half of this movie is pretty decent as a war movie. And I think Andrew Garfield is decent in that. Maybe it's because there's a helmet over his head and we can't see the big fucking goofy hair. But he just seems more grounded in the last half of the movie. And we don't have a lot of the like schlock that we have in the first half of this movie where it's like unnecessary scenes, unnecessary romance. There's all this like incredible like melodrama. Like the one scene, like, I mean... not to mention like the entire boot camp sequence. It's that I forgive because it's necessary. It's necessary, but it still goes over the top in terms of like making him feel persecuted. And yeah, we'll definitely get into that. But like the fucking scene where he's like in the jail and he's like punching the wall out of rage, like it's not fucking like Raging Bull.
Yeah.
It just makes no sense, and it's like over the top with like all the stuff in the first half of the
They
movie.
could have cut out a half hour in the beginning.
Oh, absolutely.
And it would have been a stronger movie for it.
Or, you know, just started us like in the middle of stuff and give us some exposition afterwards rather than like having to tell this entire person's story. Because, yeah, it is about Desmond T. Doss, but it's very specifically about what he did to earn this Medal of Honor. I don't really care how he grew up. It doesn't really affect a whole lot in the movie.
Especially...
other than through stuff that we should learn through exposition somehow, or maybe one or two scenes at most. Like,
especially the fact that like him hitting his brother with the brick was not the moment that he kept on going back to.
Especially because, like, we see how he was raised, and him and his brother don't give a fuck about what his dad said. His dad's like, if there's one thing I teach you, don't go into the army. And Andrew Garfield's like, I was raised to not to do like violence. It's like, yeah, you should have listened to your fucking, don't go into the fucking army. Like, and it was just kind of like, they try to solve it with like this one line. And was like, these two boys, like in my like town, they weren't allowed to go into the army. You know, they were medical discharge and they both killed themselves. And I was like, yeah, I guess they did not give us a snapshot of what like maybe marrying this girl like immediately would have made more sense if it was like a World War II era. Maybe like the army mentality would have made sense if like they gave me a more clear picture of what kind of environment he was growing up in. But they just spend so much, again, they're so stretched for time. It's childhood, meeting the girl of his dreams, taking her on dates, boot camp, getting to Hacksaw Ridge, being at Hacksaw Ridge, saving people at Hacksaw Ridge, fighting people at Hacksaw. It's just, there's so many plot points. It's just, it kind of all gets lost, and you're like, what is the point?
I do have a small interjection that I should have gotten away. When you guys assigned Hacksaw Ridge to me, I recognized it as like no, I didn't even recognize it as the Mel Gibson movie. I know he had a movie out. I thought I was gonna see a horror movie. Like Hacksaw Ridge.
Degler literally just said that.
Who's on next week's episode. They were telling about it, and he's like, oh, that's a horror movie, I assume.
It was like you told me Hacksaw Ridge, and before I Googled it, like a minute after, I was like, oh, wow, is that like a cool horror movie I'm about to see? And I'm like, oh, it's that Mel Gibson one. But
after Green Room, you just assume everything's a horror movie.
Yeah, everything's a horror. How am I going to get
Turns
scarred?
out Green Room's not Scott Pilgrim, guys.
Guys, it's not like edgier Scott Pilgrim.
I think we assigned Hacksaw Ridge to you because you were similar to Joe, where you're very, again, you've been on this podcast a lot, you're comfortable talking on the microphone, and I saw the trailer for this movie and I was like, oh no. If anybody's seen the trailer for this movie, he's like, my name's Desmond Doss. I want to fall in the army.
Please let me get one more.
Yeah.
Was anybody really distracted by his jaw movement? Like,
Uh-huh. He was really committed to, I don't know.
Maintaining that accent.
Yeah.
And the accent was kind of distracting for at least half the movie. I would go in and out of like kind of like being like, oh, okay, and then sometimes I'd be like, well, wait a minute, this is not
him in wartime. I get the accolades because there reaches a point in the movie where he was fantastic, but like,
What state were they in again?
oh, Virginia.
Yeah, is the accent that pronounced in Virginia?
In the mountains, probably.
Yeah, I guess maybe going more
Because
towards West
they're
Virginia,
in like
but
the Hickville of Virginia.
still, it was a bit much.
Yeah.
I thought Hugo Weaving was a little weird with his accent. I know he's British, but he
No,
kind of
he's
like
Australian.
is he?
Yeah.
He's not American.
He ain't me.
I thought he was the best actor in the movie, kind
No,
of.
well, that's what I was going to get towards. That I think even despite his accent,
We'll get to Vince. This was True Detective season 3 for Vince. This was quite the performance.
thank God
for
they're
Vince.
making Wedding Crashers too. He needs a break.
Are they?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
No,
Oh, thank God.
no.
Vince needs a break, Nick.
But yeah, I think Hugo Weaving, despite the accent kind of wavering a little bit, I think he's pretty good in this movie. Especially the one scene. As much as I don't like how much time we spend on his family life in the beginning of the movie, the one scene, and I guess this one does make sense to the actual plot of the movie when he decides that he is going to enlist for the army. And like Hugo's like, oh well, I guess you can talk to my 2 friends who died. And he's like,
When the brother announces that he's going to go into the army, and he keeps like talking about how handsome his one friend was, even though that started off kind of like me snickering, that ended up being like the best scene in the movie, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It was just like it showed the most acting range, and even though all Andrew Garfield was just like reaction shots, which is just the same face of just like, huh, Papa talking? Which is, I think Nick said this before, and I think everybody thinks this during this movie, is I think Andrew Garfield watched too much like, what's it called?
Forrest Gump. Yeah.
It was so Forrest Gump. It was like,
It really was.
huh? Yeah, okay, my mama said that.
I was raised away from the town, so I'm a little bit off.
even though Forrest Gump is Alabama,
Yeah.
and not. Where's that?
Mom always said life is like a box of chocolate. You never know when you're gonna list in the war.
No, Andrew, this is a war movie. They already made Forrest Gump. We're not making it again.
Jenny. That's not her name.
Did what's it called? I was talking to Joe about this. He's like, "What movies are you guys reviewing next?" Joe Mano of the O Word podcast. But
A word?
O Word?
Hi guys.
Hey guys, welcome to the O Word podcast. He always opens those episodes so quick. Hey guys, welcome to the O Word podcast. But he's like, that movie just looks like it's gonna be like 2 hours of that one scene in Forrest Gump where he's in Vietnam and he's just carrying people out. Because that's an actual scene of that movie where Forrest Gump is going back and like pulling everybody out of the forest. And then you have this movie.
He's not wrong.
Yeah, and then you have this movie, which Andrew Garfield's kind of mimicking Forrest Gump, and he's just doing that the entire war. So, like, him saying that, and then me watching the movie, I was like, oh no, I'ma whip you, boy.
No, I'm gonna have to whip you. There was like another scene that was in slow motion.
Somebody-
like that, where-
gonna teach him nothing.
Somebody unintroduced Mel Gibson to slow motion. Did you guys like when Andrew Garfield did a bicycle kick to a grenade?
Oh god, no.
It was like
Was that the
FIFA
beginning or the end?
2016 when you get like a full power
I
up.
was trying to. Me and my brother, we drove home because my brother saw it with us, and we dropped my grandfather off, and we were just having conversation about the movie. I kept on saying, what was the 3-act structure? Like, what was the third act? I feel like the third act was 5 minutes. We had a very long second act and a very long first
Third
act.
act was, remember that thing we showed you in the first 5 minutes of the movie? Now we're back here.
And
It's
then, like,
ended.
and
can
then,
we
like,
stop with fucking in media res? Like, because that ruined that whole movie for me.
seriously.
I was like, like the whole time it was like, I'm being crucified in boot camp. Like, I'm passing to the Christ too. And it was kind of like,
I'm getting persecuted for my beliefs.
every night I get beat up. Oh, because I'm slower than the other boys and I don't believe in picking up a rifle, even though I could pick up one and shooting in boot camp and pass boot camp and not kill anybody because you're shooting targets in boot camp.
This ain't about pride, though.
Yeah, exactly. But like the whole boot camp scene, which was fucking an hour long, didn't matter because I was like, well, at the beginning of the movie, I saw Andrew Garfield on a battle scene.
Yeah.
Like it was just dumb. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, what was I gonna say? Yeah,
Bicycle kick.
bicycle. Would that be considered the climax of the movie?
That was like the
Well,
that was the climax. Yeah, I think
I
that
don't
was the
know
climax, yeah.
what else would be. Like he was like grilling me, saying like, "Oh, not all movies have to have 3-act structures," and I'm trying to defend. No, movies have 3-act
Does
structures.
Tim like it?
Yeah, yeah. But I was like, just like
10 years from now, he's gonna review it on 10 years out.
10 Years Out podcast starring my brother. Yeah, but it really stumped me, like me trying to like talk my way out of like what was the 3-act structure of this movie, because it was like 2 really long acts and then a footnote 3rd act.
Yeah. And then that boot camp. Oh, man.
Oh God, I feel like I went through boot camp.
It's going like really heavy-handed with like the
Movie boot camp.
Persecution is
War
the best.
movie boot camp.
Persecution is like the best word for it because it almost ends up being, and I don't know if this is just because of the like faith aspect of the movie, but it ends up being like a metaphor for like Christianity.
Yep.
Yes.
Where it's like
Christians are being persecuted right now.
the army is like the modern world, and Desmond Doss.
Trump is persecuting all the Christians.
Desmond Doss is like the 100% righteous man, and he can't see why he would be like persecuted at all.
My God, wasn't everybody really religious back then anyway?
He literally.
It wasn't like it was a stigma being Christian.
But then the thing is,
I had to write it down because my fucking jaw dropped to the floor. Somebody on the boot camp is trying to level with him, and he says something like, "Guns are for the weak, guns are for the stupid,"
Yeah.
and I was like, "What?" Like I was just like, it was so much holier than thou. I was like blown away by
it tries to make you sympathize with him because all this bad stuff is happening to him in boot camp. We end up sympathizing more with the rest of his battalion because we're like, you fucking volunteered for this.
Why would
And they were making good points. Like, this man will not.
You weren't drafted. No one forced you to go into the army. So if you had these beliefs, you shouldn't have gone. And anything you're undergoing after that point, yeah, it may be a little bit cruel, but you signed up for it and you've had all these opportunities to leave.
They give him all the outs he
Yes.
needs. And what you were about to say.
Like, you know, there was like a scene where Vince Vaughn, sorry,
yeah.
he was just like, this man won't pick up a rifle and defend you. Can you trust him on a battlefield and stuff? I'm like, yeah, like if he can't push back his
He's
own
not your
personal
brother in
beliefs, like
arms.
to help them out, then he's not doing his part.
That's like literally, that should be like the driving home like tagline for this film is like, this man sitting next to you will not protect you because he thinks he's better than you and his religion is more important.
I want to see if that actually happened in real life. Him actually refusing to fire the weapons.
Because there's a lot of fabricated details. in
I
this
would.
movie.
I mean, it's Mel Gibson.
Yes.
So, so I would imagine that probably was made up. I don't know.
I can imagine this reaches like Snowden level fabrication. Like,
I mean, that part might be true just because I think that's the only reason he would make a movie about this character. Is
the-
if-
no,
I
Medal of
don't.
Honor.
I know. I think the only reason he'd make a movie about this character is because of all the guys he saved. I think maybe the persecution had to be harder so that the reward was greater, so that all of the fucking generals and like
But he
everybody who's
wasn't-
higher than him had to take so much shit.
But he was a
who ate so much shit because of him. At the end of the movie, they had to be like,
I was wrong.
I was wrong. Like, you fed me shit this entire movie, and I was wrong.
You know what this scene was missing?
I'm sorry, Mike. I cut you off.
No, but he was a conscientious objector.
yeah.
But I don't know if we know. I mean, us personally.
Right, yeah, I don't know what
to
did and didn't
what
happen.
extent
Yeah.
is that, you know.
This movie was missing a scene where they take him out back, like strap him to a tree stump and start whipping him.
Exactly. Where they put him up on a cross in the middle of boot camp.
And then the other part of
of
boot
Thorns.
camp that just Vince Vaughn, as we've been laughing at, like I want to root for him because
I really do.
We do. We want him
everyone
to-
fucking loves when like a comedic actor takes on a serious or just semi-serious role.
We want
and
him to
does
have
well.
an Eddie Murphy Dreamgirls moment.
Like Steve Carell in Foxcatcher makes Foxcatcher such a better movie just because it's Steve Carell in that role.
Yeah, and
We want him
like,
to have an Adam Sandler Punch Drunk Love
Yeah,
moment.
or like Will Ferrell, like Stranger Than Fiction, or like these semi-serious
or
roles.
Jonah Hill in
War Dogs, and
well, everything.
everything really now.
but he's not convincing, and like I can see why they would cast him, like assuming he was cast without an actual like audition or something, just because he's Vince Vaughn. I can see why you would say, oh, all right, Vince Vaughn can do this. He's a funny guy. We need a funny person who's tall, commanding, and can be mean to be like a drill sergeant. But his like drill sergeant voice is like not intimidating at all. It's like literally like weak tonally. His like
It looks
drill
like he's trying to
voice.
entertain everybody else while,
and
trying to scare.
It looks like him being in charge of the frat boys in Old School. That's exactly what it looks like. He's like, all right, like like he's joking with them, but he's
Sergeant
also
idiot.
yeah,
Or
like
private idiot.
You're gonna have to drink beer out of his butthole, like like it's just very. It's very, I don't know.
But it's he doesn't come across as. I think they really wanted to get that typical drill sergeant, like he's so mean, tough love type of thing, and then
at the end of every scene, he has like a tear in the corner of his eyes. He's like, "God damn it, Desmond Doss, you done it again."
But like,
Don't make me. Why can't I just quit you?
like if those mean scenes had worked, then like his sympathetic scenes towards like the end of the movie would have hit home harder. When he comes around to realizing, oh, I was wrong about you, like they all realize in this movie about Desmond Doss.
Everyone realizes that like every scene.
His realization ends up being the weakest because of how weak his performance as the drill sergeant was in like the first half.
Well, it's just again, it's fucking tone deaf in the way that there's like boot camp scene 1. This is all jokes. One guy's naked. One guy's got a knife in his foot. You're gonna have to do the whole boot camp naked, kind of like. And everybody's got really stereotypical names according to like the state that they're from. It's
Hollywood.
not original at all because we haven't seen a fucking World War II movie ever. It like lifts so many things, and then we have like all of a sudden day 2. Now it's tough. You thought I was funny guy yesterday? I'm serious guy in this scene, kind of like, and like I don't like you guys, and like it's just kind of like the way that I found out that Desmond Doss like is a conscientious objector or whatever the fuck he is. Now, like that's changed the whole shift of like the movie and like the tone of like how boot camp works and everything. I don't know.
It also like it's a minor detail, but it really bugs me in movies. And I feel like it happens in war movies all the time, but especially in like college movies, it's a thing where like the main character shows up late to like first day of college, or in this case boot camp.
Oh yeah, everyone
else is settled in, knows each other's name, and is introducing other people.
Yeah.
And that's this entire boot camp
And
scene.
they're
It's like, oh, that's Hollywood over there, and that's Magic Man over there.
You're
totally
literally the
okay.
last person to get here.
Yeah.
They're totally like comfortable with the fact that Hollywood is doing like
How long have they all been there before Andrew Garfield shows up? If they all know
Spent
each other's
months
names,
in this boot camp.
they have nicknames for each other. Like, shouldn't they all be like by themselves? Like,
Here's
getting
like
to know each
Vito
other?
Pepperoni. He's a firecracker. That one.
Literally, they know the ins and out of every character when Andrew Garfield gets there. I didn't even think about that.
They do that in college movies all the time. Like the guy will like show up to college and he's like, oh, that's Geeky Eyes, Four Eyes, or
Yeah,
whatever.
guys,
like,
it's
he's-
moving in day. How long have you guys been talking?
Like he moves into his dorm and the one guy already has it set up completely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, Star Wars posters. I'm rooming with a nerd.
How do you guys already have empty beer bottles everywhere?
Oh my god, he's getting laid already.
He's having sex. He just moved in.
What a character!
It was kind of like the minute I saw Vince Vaughn doing like this whole role, I thought of David Schwimmer in Band of Brothers.
Oh god, yeah.
But
Is he in Band of Brothers?
David pulled it off.
because
never
that's the
finished
thing.
it.
He did it better.
David was
yeah.
very hateable in Band of Brothers.
Yeah.
Um,
Just like he's the what is he now in that, like,
O.J. Simpson. He was
He's
the
Kardashian.
The Kardashian,
Yeah,
yeah.
Robert.
He was great in Band of Brothers, but
Yeah, he was. Again, it was that transition from, I was in France. Am I gonna have sex with Rachel?
dinosaurs. I own a monkey.
I'm a really weird sexist character.
The show would only work in the 90s.
All 6 characters are attractive.
And white.
And white. There's barely any people of color in this.
No cucks in it, though.
There's a scene in this film where literally, the antagonist in the boot camp, the guy who beats the shit out of him all the time, he's like, this is a nice dame. Yeah, he's like, this is a nice dame. She doesn't need a man like you. I could please her more. And I was like watching it, and that's when we were going through in squad. We loved using the word cuck, or at least I did. And I was like, is he calling him a cuck? Andrew Garfield, you cuck.
Hacksaw Ridge.
Yeah. And Andrew Garfield, all of a sudden, he's like, well, I guess I could watch you have sex with her.
You know?
Please, God, please let her get one more. Orgasm. Please let her get one more.
Oh, God, they have that
Let him
scene.
bust one more nut. Please, God.
They have that scene in the trench where he's like,
Conscientious object. Oh, I'm gonna sit this one out, baby.
a conscientious objector.
Conscientious.
God, they had that scene in the trench, though, where she's like, you know, she should be with someone like me. And he's like, yep, until she knows you're an asshole.
Yeah, till she meets you, or yeah.
Until she meets you. She'd probably fuck you until she talked to you.
Oh, goodness.
We're such good friends, aren't we?
Yeah, that foxhole scene was a little weird.
Can we talk about, are we moving to the action stuff, or are we still...
I'll talk about anything, because this movie has a bazillion scenes.
I will say this, Mel Gibson really knows how to direct an amazing action sequence, because
He's made great movies.
Yeah.
I think we think Mel Gibson, and we think Passion of the Christ, because that was an enormous hit. Say what you will about that movie, it's fucking excruciating. But we think Braveheart,
which is amazing movie.
Yeah, I love that movie, and it's a cultural touchstone, even if you don't like it, really.
Won Best Picture too, I think.
Really?
Yeah, 1995. It beat out Apollo 13.
Oh, okay, yeah, I do remember that now. And then, I mean, there's also, I mean, he didn't direct it, but Lethal Weapon. I mean, he's attached to great
Mad Max.
movies. It's kind of like in that, what's it called? The South Park, like, Imagination Land episode, where they're, like, bringing in all the, they bring in, like, M. Night Shyamalan, and, like, it's like the U.S. government, and they're bringing in, like, all these, like, different directors, and they're like, how do you think we should solve this, like, terrorist situation? And M. Night Shyamalan's like, maybe like this, and Michael Bay's like, maybe like this, and they're like, no, guys, those aren't plot points. Those are just, like, twists, and those are just, like, CGI, like, explosions. And then, like, what's it called? Mel Gibson comes in, and he doesn't have his shirt on, and he's, like, twisting and tweaking his, like, nipples the entire time, and he gives them, like, the answer that they need, and the general's like, say what you want about Mel Gibson, but the son of a bitch knows story structure. It's like one of my favorite scenes of South Park ever. And in this film, he doesn't.
No,
but
he doesn't,
he makes some really great movies.
I really haven't completely hated a Mel Gibson movie. If we're going from Apocalypto down.
Apocalypto was I would have given that, I think, like,
I'll
a
go
4.5
to bat for
fingers.
Apocalypto any day of the fucking week.
I would have probably 4 to 4.5. Like, I don't care.
What would you give that?
Probably 4.5.
Yeah, probably 4.5 for me too. Braveheart would probably a 5 for me.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I don't know. I have to watch it again. I haven't watched that in a while. I think I literally just made fun of it in
Scouts
it's
episode.
easy to make fun of, but it's
Scouts episode. We just made fun of it.
It's easy to make fun of, but like
in The Birth of a Nation too, because we talked about Mel Gibson in that, because like he was like he like helped
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he was. Nate Parker was taking advice from Mel Gibson.
Birth of a Nation has the same exact plot as Braveheart, which is like weird too.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I was saying is
Braveheart 2.
Mel Gibson is incredible with battle sequences. The cinematography is pretty damn great during these sequences.
Yeah, I make fun of the battle porn, but that looks fucking great.
It did, yeah.
Like, I get it.
It looked awesome, yeah.
Well, it's weird going into it in the beginning. The beginning is I mean, the very first scene where we go into the battle porn there, because you haven't earned it. We haven't had like the boot camp.
Yeah.
We haven't had any lightness at all. And as much as I don't like how bright and light the first half is, you do need a little bit of lightness so that when they finally do get into the battle scenes, it's like, oh, all right.
It's contrast. It's
yeah, we're not in Kansas
when
anymore.
You change
this is
the
what
channel
war is
from
actually
a romantic
like.
comedy to a war movie.
That was on so much trivia and quotes and whatever else is on IMDb. It was like, did you know when Vince Vaughn says, we're not in Kansas anymore, he's referring to...
Did you know?
You guys get it?
Oh, boy. But,
Was Wizard of Oz out by then?
Yeah, 39. That was 42.
All right, yeah.
yeah.
I don't know if that line was as culturally iconic by then.
No, it was like an instant hit.
That line, though, I don't know.
Well, did you guys know... This is super off topic. But when It's a Wonderful Life came out, it was like a fucking huge flop, and everybody hated it. And then... so by the time like the 1970s rolled around, like 30 years later, nobody wanted to renew it. Like they were like, fuck that. Like all the production studios, like this is such a big flop. It's such a shitty film. So in the 1970s, every like free television station picked it up and they would just play it nonstop on Christmas, like around Christmas time, because it's the only movies that they could afford.
Free,
it's
yeah.
fucking free. So our entire parents' generation was like, it's a Christmas classic. and meanwhile, like reviewers were like, no, that was a really bad movie. Like,
No, that is an amazing movie.
I actually
movie.
like it,
Yeah.
but like it's just like funny how it became like a popular movie.
Well, I mean, also going off topic, Empire Strikes Back got mixed reviews as best, like at best when it was released.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 2001: A Space Odyssey, negative reviews. So there's a lot of movies that get released and are.
So what you're saying is
upon.
Hacksaw Ridge is an instant.
Yeah, it got good reviews. So
It's a
an instant
sleeper,
classic.
but it's good.
What was the score on Rotten
87.
Tomatoes?
87.
87. That's high for this movie. Can you guys tell that I don't like this movie that much? Man. I don't know. It's not like I read a few critic reviews and they compare it. They say it is the best war movie since Saving Private Ryan.
Well, to be honest, if you look past it, all those like, what else? Oh, no, wait, letters from Iwo Jima shat upon this movie.
I can think of a lot of war movies that I mean.
Well, I mean World War II movies. I was
World War
thinking.
II.
We Were Soldiers was a better war movie than this one.
Oh, Mel was in.
Mel Gibson was in that.
Wasn't that Vietnam though?
That has a similar structure to this though, where the first half is like boot camp and it's like people making jokes. And
Was
then
anybody
Then the
else-
last half is like really, really gruesome, like violence and gore.
Anybody else slightly like Mel's at it again in Passion of the Christ. He portrayed the Jews as like the big evil people, and in this time it was like the Japanese were just the relentless, like running out, like throwing grenades on themselves, screaming as they hold like another person.
Yeah, that's the
Well,
one
they-
part because I like a
Let's
lot
talk
of. I
about
like
the
a lot of.
seppuku scene.
I like a lot of.
Is that what how it's pronounced?
Yeah, I think it is.
Because that was wildly racist.
Well, the
the
generals actually did do that
but
shit. though.
still, it's like it still felt wrong. I didn't like watching that.
It was
like,
not needed because
yeah.
we didn't know this character.
right.
There's just small stuff I hate in war movies where anytime like a Japanese character comes online, we get like the fucking like pan flu. Like,
Exactly. The score, even the score was racist. It's like,
he looks different. Play the flute.
When they're like running out of the tunnel and it has that like the fluty too.
Like they did like a little bit of that in like Pearl Harbor, but Pearl Harbor is still a better war movie because it tries to humanize like the Japanese from their like mind point like at that time in history.
This is what blew my mind is that Clint Eastwood made this really like, almost sympathetic movie towards the Japanese point of view. Like he directed 2 movies about the Battle of
Flags of Our Fathers and
Flags of Our
Letters from
Fathers.
Iwo Jima.
And Letters from Iwo Jima was the better film. It was and Mel just has them like basically they're this generation's Jewish people trying to kill Jesus. Because they're just running out like they're stormtroopers. That's what they were. They were stormtroopers.
Yeah.
It was really one-sided, and like they only showed sympathy in that one scene where it's because Andrew Garfield was helping one of theirs, and he was just like, I can't believe you're doing this. There was no words, but like it was still like can you like this guy was such a good guy that he helped those fucking scum Japanese soldiers.
I mean, there are parts of it that I understand. Like
what did they call it? Nips or something?
Something like that. When it's in the story in terms of coming from the characters' mouths, I forgive it and I understand it because that was the sentiment. I mean, they literally attacked us in Pearl Harbor, and that's what drove a lot of these men to sign up for the army. So when they say things like the one character has a line like he literally says like they're monsters or they're animals or something like that in terms of how they keep fighting.
And shit like that.
That would have been realistic to what they would have said.
They're expecting to die and stuff like that. But then, this like the stuff from the soundtrack or like the way like the seppuku scene was shot, like it just didn't seem necessary to Andrew Garfield's story in that. Like again, which is what a lot of my complaints with this movie are, is just focus on Desmond Doss saving these people. That's where the story is. And that's when the movie
before the seppukus.
And when the movie is at its best is literally when the movie is what the IMDb description says it is. Desmond Doss dragging people, like doing this incredible feat of saving all these people. That's when the movie actually works, is in that as much as the war scenes are cool, him saving the people is when the movie, like it feels like a completely different movie from the rest of the movie.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. We have such a large chunk of war movie kind of. And I think the funniest thing is that Andrew Garfield saving people is not that exciting. So Mel Gibson would be like, shooting, killing, shooting, killing, shooting, killing, somebody throwing a grenade, Andrew Garfield saving somebody. Shooting, killing, shooting, and it was kind of like we didn't really see that much of Andrew Garfield in like the back.
Well, I kind of get why he would do that, capture the horrors of the war, and
definitely.
And the fact that like my grandfather who was in it was saying this is kind of more what it was like.
But then spend more time getting to know the characters in the boot camp beyond like a nickname
that was
and a characterist, and then spend less time in his childhood, spend less time with his fucking like wife. Like we don't need to know her. She's not essential to the story of him saving lives in Vietnam. It's fine to know that she exists. It's fine to have an actress portray her and have her be in the movie, and maybe have his love for her and wanting to get home be a little bit of a motivation of some kind.
But also, I felt like it took away like when he's running into battle and ready to die. Kind of like I didn't care about her. Like he's willing to put his life on the line for this guy.
Yeah.
It's kind of like. It becomes very problematic when you have these films where it's kind of like these men share a relationship with God and a woman, and it splits into God, and you're like, well, what about?
I mean, not to bring it up again, but in ways that Pearl Harbor is a better war movie than this.
I'll
go to bat for Pearl Harbor any day as well. I think Pearl Harbor is a decent.
I haven't watched that since.
It's a decent.
You think Josh Hartnett's really cute in it?
I think he's cute.
He's very cute.
I don't remember that movie.
I think it gets a lot of flack. I think people were expecting different things. I don't think it's.
I rewatched it.
I think Michael. I think
it's
that's
a
like
classic.
Michael Bay's. Like I think people are like, well, at least he did that. Like, what else has he done?
Well, I mean, they make fun of it in Team America. Like Pearl Harbor sucked. I miss you was a whole song.
Pearl Harbor really did suck. Sorry, Mike.
No, man, I can't.
It really did.
I think
Pearl
it's
Harbor is cool.
I think it's an entertaining movie. And that's a movie where, they probably went a little bit too over the top with the romance in that movie, but it still plays a part to what's actually going on, what we're watching. And like they don't just have romance and then all right, now there's war scenes. Like she's the one who's like going to like try to get like updates on what's going on. Like we don't forget about her when the battle starts and just leave her behind, which is what we do in this movie. We don't see her. I don't even know if we even see her in the last half of the movie after they get married.
We don't.
Which is again, so then don't fucking include her.
Right, yeah.
Pearl Harbor's a decent movie.
I'd give
it 3 fingers.
Was Pearl Harbor like the beginning of like exploiting historic events just to like have people go to the movies?
I think they've always been doing that.
Have they?
Yeah.
Why? Like,
I mean, Oliver Stone's been making movies for a long time.
No, that's very true. But I think in 2016 we've really come to like where that one director, Mark Wahlberg, in 2016 they released 2 movies. They did like the one of the BP oil
Deepwater
spill,
Horizon,
and then they also
Patriots Day,
the Boston bombing one, where like Mark Wahlberg's like
that came out.
It's been out.
Where the fucking trailer for Patriots Day is like an out of tune piano playing like the national anthem, which is like similar to like the Purge like election night trailer.
Oh my god! I just remembered. I'm not gonna say who in my family said this quote.
Okay.
But they said, oh yeah, because I was like, griping about how like Mel Gibson portrayed all the Japanese as monsters. Mm-hmm. He was like, oh yeah, they the Japanese laid the groundwork for ISIS. ISIS learned everything they know from the Japanese in World War II.
Grandpa Vince, no.
No, it wasn't Grandpa Vince. It was not. This was not Grandpa Vince. He was not even there.
Oh, relatives.
This was immediate family. I'm not saying who it was. I'll tell you guys after, but...
I was reading also in the... something to follow up that Mel Gibson bought the rights to 2 songs, To God Be the Glory and We're Gonna Have to Slap That Dirty Little Jap. Oh God. Which is we're gonna have to slap. I was listening to it on YouTube. I was listening to it on YouTube earlier. And it is something that was recorded like right after Pearl Harbor, so it is like the equivalent of like country now, where it's kind of like, where were you when the world stopped turning? That September day, which in middle school I thought was a fucking riot. Sorry, I thought 9/11 was a no, just the world's like overall like. Overly empathetic, like kind of like, how would you feel if I made like $1 million on this song? Like, you know, like it's like all the motherfuckers that sold like American flags. Like, get over yourself.
Cash in my paycheck.
Do you guys want to hear the song?
I want to hear it.
I'm gonna play the first. Mike's like having like an audio nightmare.
30 seconds and you're good, right?
Audio nightmare and a moral nightmare.
10 seconds.
Wait, we didn't buy the rights to this. Can you turn it any louder?
Sorry about that.
God.
I'm gonna cut it off.
Where was that in the movie?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
I think you just like this song.
It's probably playing over the credits, knowing Mel Gibson.
The credits cut in. But no. You get into those lyrics and it gets real dark real soon. It's like, if I ever saw a Jap, we'd have to take him back outside to like the wooden shed where we'd actually have his mom who would hide and like have our way with her. And I was like,
that sounds like, remember in 12 Years a Slave when Paul Dano sings that really offensive song? That's what it reminds me of. Oh God.
Oh man.
They do like ragtime. They do ragtime songs like.
I love some some of the comments. Pearl Harbor today, ... had to have a listen, smiley face.
Oh, God, America, you've let us down in so many ways.
I just spit beer all over your apartment.
I was just gonna say they use ragtime songs like that in Boardwalk Empire all the time, but to great effect.
Top 10 anime intros. Oh no, there's one. I had to. I don't know. It said something about this is the original, like diss track. I don't know.
Diss track.
We're gonna have to slap those dirty little Japs.
No.
Oh, America, you were so racist at one point.
God.
And I believe Mel Gibson still is.
I think he is.
I mean, we
Oh my
haven't.
God.
I think Nick just threw up in my sink.
I choked on my beer because I was laughing so hard. It was a perfect storm of me taking a sip while Joe played the song, and like the beer was like getting down my throat while I started laughing, so I started pushing it up. Oh God!
I don't remember that song being in this movie. I'm glad Mel Gibson
He just bought the rights for his personal use,
so he can just play it at parties.
Oh God!
We haven't even talked about Mel Gibson being like making wild anti-Semitic remarks and
I need a tissue or something.
being super anti-gay, and he's just
what
done-
anti-gay thing did he say or do? Not that I'm surprised, but
there was something I was reading. I don't have it in front of me. I don't want to say that. I don't want to put that on record if I'm wrong.
it's not a stretch.
Yeah.
To imagine that Mel Gibson is not accepting.
Was it during? Wait, what was during his DUI that he started saying? Was that the anti-Semitic
Yeah.
remarks?
It was either that or it was when he was like apologizing for that. I can't remember if there was audio of his DUI arrest.
I don't remember. But anyway, yeah. I don't want to sincerely say that like he had anti-gay remarks. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. Just also like seeing all these like green helmets and stuff in a line, I was just kind of like, Christopher Nolan's about to make a bomb-ass movie.
Dunkirk is about to show you how a war movie is made.
he's about to
Harry Styles is going to be in a better war movie than Andrew Garfield.
Yeah. Man. Man, we've really fucking derailed for a while.
Thanks to that song. Oh god, the one scene, because I do like for the most part a lot of the second half of the movie where it gets into the darker war stuff, just because it felt grittier. It was tonally consistent for the most part from that point out, even if it was discordant compared to the first half of the movie.
Right, yeah.
The part that I don't like is when he's in the foxhole with Smitty or whatever. Oh. And they go back to the flashback as if it's like a big reveal of, because there was the one scene that they show us earlier where his dad is like, beating his mom or whatever. And then now we get to see that, he actually pulled a gun on his dad and like almost killed him. And it's another thing where like they're trying to get us to sympathize with him, like they tried to do in the boot camp sequence with like all the persecution, quote unquote, that he went through.
Smitty has like the Greek chorus of like, man, if I was in your position, I would have killed him.
Yeah.
Shut up, Smitty. You don't have parents. You don't
But you don't get it.
It like
Your dad
backfired.
died in World War I.
It backfires again because it's like we sympathize more with like the anger that he did feel for his dad in terms of like his dad was beating his mom. Like it would have made more sense if he had like actually like done something to his dad, like actually beat his dad up to an inch of his, hit his dad with the brick instead of his brother or something like that.
like an innocent like play around fight. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It was very weird. I couldn't find myself sympathizing with like his aversion to violence, and especially because he was so like smug and like self-righteous about it the whole time. So then to have this like big reveal type moment where it's like, he actually pulled a gun on his father and that's why he doesn't,
And from
have
that-
violent.
From that day on, I never want to use a gun again.
Yeah, and again, it completely undermines the whole first scene that we spent so much time on in the beginning of the movie with hitting his brother with a brick.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And it was kind of like, oh, you didn't read that. Like, it's kind of like God told me to do that, and it was like, no, you just had a weird life experience that you're not able to get over. It made it really hard for me to sympathize with. Like, it was kind of like the most that they could associate it with God is like, well, okay, but what if after he hit his brother, let's just say his parents had a poster of the 10 Commandments and he went to go look at that specific commandment. It's like, that's the most that they can connect it to God and religion. It's kind of like, it was just like a very, what if he was a conscientious objector just because he didn't believe in violence? Like, what if Mel Gibson's kind of trying to really spin this into religion? And that's what I was thinking the entire time. And I don't really know anybody's background. I don't know how fabricated this is, but I was like, what is that? Like, you're trying to like shove God into it. And it's kind of like, I guess it's kind of, like these are real, like that wasn't like, it's not like you read a story about like Jesus holding a gun to like Joseph's head and was like, and then Jesus said, I'm not gonna pick up a rifle during World War II. Like, like the Bible applies to now. Like it's all like very, it's almost relevant to how now people take the Bible too literally.
Yeah,
and
word
it's
for
like,
word.
yeah.
Well, then he has the line where he says, Smitty says something like, well, you didn't kill him, and he's like, well, I killed him in my mind. And that's like another thing that's
Killed
just
him
like
buried him in my
that's
heart.
a stretch that's like hard to relate to. It's hard to sympathize with. Like, I don't. I don't think a lot of this was like necessary to really understand his character. Like, we could have still just had the boot camp scenes and could have had him being this kind of quirky character who doesn't want to touch a gun. He's making life difficult for the rest of his like army squadron, so you understand why they're angry at him for everything. And then go to the battle scenes eventually, and then then the reversal I think would still work without having to go to like these great lengths to be like, this is why he believes what he believes, and this is why this is like the right choice, because it's weird to have that in a war movie, because it's critical almost of all the other characters in the movie. Which Desmond Doss himself wasn't even. Even in this movie, he's not critical of those people because he says things, like, I just personally don't want to, touch a gun, but I believe in the cause and I want to make sure that, I'm supporting it,
Right. And again, but like, it's lines of dialogue like, guns are for the weak, guns are for the stupid, is like why the rest of his boot camp is like, all right, cool, fuck you. Like, you deserve to beat the shit out of somebody like that. Well,
He's putting himself
when
up on a pedestal.
Right, yeah. And it's...
or a cross.
Yeah.
And I also don't know what, like, the scene... I like the courtroom scene somewhat, but I don't...
Which none of that is real.
Is it?
It's not. Mm-mm. Yeah, I love that scene.
Yeah, I know there was a lot that was fabricated.
Yeah.
But I don't... It's intriguing, but it feels weird in terms of his relationship to his father.
Right.
Where,
Yeah.
like, his father doesn't want him to go to war because he doesn't want to lose his sons because of, like, how whatever war is. And then I understand that's what's supposed to be touching about it, is that, like, he's, willing to stick his neck out for his son.
Right.
To as this, show of affection for him, to make sure that he doesn't go to jail and that he can make it into the war or whatnot.
Right.
But then it's just weird because, like, you would think that his father would be on the side of, like, well, you have to take up arms to protect your friends because you don't want your friends to die like my friends did while we were over there. It seems like a weird...
If you were that dad, and the dad doesn't really have any sort of turning point to beliefs or anything like that, wouldn't you rather your son just be in jail than die?
Yeah.
Because he's pretty... his mind never changes. You never see a mind change from, like, what good a use are you?
It also just doesn't fit because, I mean, I know that relationships with fathers can be very complicated, but like, especially since his entire reasoning for not wanting to pick up a gun is because he used to get so angry at his father for beating his mother that he wanted to, like, Like, I don't know, we never have any scenes of like sympathy for the mother for like getting beaten, which was like a weird tone that this movie took, I thought, where the sympathy we're supposed to feel is that, oh, he almost killed his father.
At one point, his mother says something that like resonated with me the entire film, just because I thought it was a deep line, but I think it was something that they completely ignore through the filmmaking process, where she says, "Your father does not hate me. Your father does not hate you or your brother. He hates himself because of what he did in the war." And why fucking he goes into the war after that is like, I want to beat my future wife and children. Like, kind of like, it's just kind of like, and also that flashback with the gun starts to make less sense. It's kind of like my dad can't help. It's not that he can't help beating his wife, but it's just like, this is a symptom of like, you know, wild depression and anxiety post whatever depression. I don't know. It's just like I don't know. There's so many factors that just all contradict themselves and don't add up.
Yeah. The only other thing that I didn't, well, I mean, there's a few things, but the other major thing, not major, minor thing I didn't like about the whole war scene is when Desmond is saving Vince Vaughn and he pulls him on like the glass sled.
And Vince Vaughn's going
like shooting. Like, it just felt like a weird, like cheesy action sequence, like to insert in there.
Did anybody think, like, just the way they were positioning themselves, it reminds me of like the cover of a Call of Duty, the older Call of Duty cover. Well, how do I quick scope?
How do I quick scope?
Like, especially Vince Vaughn has like that same exact gun. He's like,
they had a nice little section on Wikipedia about some of the stuff that they got wrong. But they say, after the war, Doss turned down many requests for books and films because he was wary of how they would portray his life, his wartime experiences, and his Seventh-day Adventist beliefs inaccurately or sensationally. Doss's only child, Desmond Doss Jr., stated the reason he declined is that none of them adhered to his one requirement, that it be accurate. And I find it remarkable the level of accuracy in adhering to the principle of the story in this movie. However, the makers of this film did change some of the details, notably the backstory about his father, the incident with the gun that Doss took out of his alcoholic father's hands, and the circumstances of his first marriage. The film also does not mention his prior combat service in the Battle of Guam, the Battle of Leyte, and leaves the impression that Doss's action on Okinawa took place over a period of a few days, but his Medal of Honor citation covered his actions over a period of about 3 weeks. So he went to 2 other battles before going to Okinawa, and then took 3 weeks there when he saved 75 bodies. Jeez. In Okinawa. So they really, like, I understand that they had to compress it for a movie, but it ends up being a completely different story. Like, 75 people in like 48 hours is a lot different than 75 people in 3 weeks.
Especially because they portray him as like some like battle novice going into the Battle of Okinawa.
Yeah. And he's been to 2 battles before that. And then just the fact that like the worst parts of the movie, like the fabricated like beginning parts are that fabricated, like his history with his father and that fucking scene where he takes the gun out of his father's hands. But I just thought that was interesting also, because then another one of my big complaints of the movie is the fact that they show footage of actual Desmond Doss at the end of the movie, which we talked about this in Sully. I fucking hate when movies do this.
I don't like this, Sam.
It's
I
because
don't like
it's
this part of the movie.
It's like you don't have enough faith in what you just created as a movie to let it stand on its own. You have to have like the real people show up and be like, "Oh, look how accurate our depictions were of that." And it's deceptive in this movie in particular because they changed a lot of shit, and then they have him there as if to say like, "Oh, not only did he approve of this movie, he was fucking dead by the time the movie was made. He didn't
want a movie.
He didn't give approval to make this movie." So it gives that inaccurate depiction. It makes it seem, because he says like 1 or 2 of the scenes that do show up in this movie, so it gives you the impression that, oh, like he gave us this entire account of everything that happened. So everything in this movie is completely accurate according to...
And he says one of the smaller scenes too. He says like, and then I rubbed water on his eyes and he said, "I'm not blind." And it was kind of like... Yeah,
did
that
he
was
even
one
smile
of
in the movie? I don't think he did, and he was saying that was like the most pinnacle of his...
that was like it was such like a small part of the movie. It was just like
Like, that's a nice interview clip, but you don't include it in your major motion picture at the end. Like, oh god, like
I don't want to have a movie about my life. We're gonna make
a movie. We're gonna change details, and then we're gonna use your own words against you to make it seem like you not only approved of it, but that you told us exactly everything that happened, and it's all historically accurate.
Like he's BFFs with
Mel
Gibson. Yeah. Well, Mel Gibson was attached to the movie like years and years and years after his death.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So fuck that shit.
Fuck that shit.
I think I've dragged most of this movie through the mud.
Like you drag the bodies through the mud?
I'm not sure how else to compliment the war scenes because I do like them.
They're cool.
They're just cool, and I think maybe we haven't seen.
Put that in your cinematography reel.
Yeah, I think there's actually a female cinematographer too.
Whoa!
I can't remember her name.
Whoa!
Females in Hollywood.
Females doing action. This isn't a chick flick.
But I would not nominate Andrew Garfield for Best Actor. For this movie, he's a great actor, but I'm not going to nominate him for this.
Yeah.
I wouldn't nominate Best Cinematography. I've seen too many good
I'd nominate
cinematography.
Vince Vaughn for Best Actor.
I completely understand the sound editing and sound mixing nominations that it's likely to receive, and even the win for sound mixing. Mm-hmm. Or maybe it's sound editing. I can't remember.
Best film editing was just kind of like, yeah, it was edited. I don't know if I'd be like, this was the best film edited.
Yeah.
Like in the top 5 best films edited this year.
It seems like a stretch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think a lot of it has to do with Sully starting to fall off. Like a lot of these categories that
fall down into the Hudson River.
A lot of these categories that I've seen Hacksaw Ridge pick up potential nominations, and again, potential. We're just looking at aggregate websites and whatnot.
It looks like it's going to clean up.
There were categories that Sully had, like even like Tom Hanks and Tom Clanks.
We have so many his name. Tom Clanks, Tom Honks,
Tom Honks.
Tom Honks here.
Tom Honks.
Tom Honk. Woo! God. Wait, didn't they make someone do a really racist? Didn't they make a character do a really racist like Indian impression in the movie?
In this movie?
Yeah. They kept on calling, like, Vince Vaughn kept on calling some character Chief, and he was like, no, I'm Polish.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's like, yeah, it was just kind of like, it was like, hey, isn't this fun? Like,
let Vince do his thing.
Racism used to be a fun thing. No, it's all politically correct.
But no, I respect
Trump's America.
Yeah, Trump's America.
Oh, protect the pipeline. Hey, Tomahawk.
Desmond Doss for president.
I'm just picturing like the press asking like Andrew Garfield a bunch of questions. He's like, huh? Oh, okay.
I miss you, Emma.
Yeah. Or just I wish I could have been a La La Land. Is it serious? With Ryan?
We've been like 3 movies together.
Remember when we were Spider-Man?
He's just got this accent forever now. He's no longer... He's British, right?
Yeah.
I think they're still dating, too.
Aren't they broken up?
I think they got back together.
I hate them as a couple. I don't really like either of them personally. I really loved Andrew Garfield in The Social Network, and I can't think of anything else that I liked him in.
I liked him as Spider-Man, to be honest.
Yeah, he wasn't bad as that.
But that was just like a flawed
He's
movie
alright
as
in
a whole.
The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. It's a weird fucking movie. But
Heath Ledger died during making this movie.
Heath Ledger death movie.
And Walter White got 2 copies of it in his bunker.
No, that was...
Oh, what was that?
That was Dr. Parnassus's... Wait, no.
Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus is the Terry Gilliam movie.
That's the Terry Gilliam. That's
There's so many.
that's the one with Natalie Portman and Dustin Hoffman in the Toy Story in the toy store that like comes to life.
What?
No, that's a movie. I swear to God, that's the one that's in Walter White's bunker. It's Natalie Portman, Dustin Hoffman. It's something that
I'm just gonna take your word on it.
No knowledge
Google
that this
Natalie
exists.
Portman, Dustin Hoffman. You'll find
Like young Natalie Portman, or
like 2006 or 7 Natalie Portman.
oh,
I googled Natalie Portman, Dustin Hoffman, Mr.
Yeah, that's
McGrady's
it.
Wonder Emporium.
That's it. That's it.
Okay, that's much different
Okay.
than. That's in Walter White's bunker.
Yeah,
I think he has 2
of it.
copies. Yeah, that's like a joke.
It's funny.
He's got weird taste.
Well,
No, he didn't choose
it. But
Robert Forster chooses it.
the first thing that pops up is Mr. Magnorium director thinks that the movie is a perfect tell for Walter White. But that's for another time.
Yeah, when we review every episode of Breaking Bad.
The ending was kind of weird for this movie too. Like you
Rushed.
touched on it before,
Yeah.
how it was. Yeah, what is the climax of this movie? Shouldn't it be him dragging the bodies through the mud, and then it's doing really well when they're realizing that he did all this stuff, and because he's up there by himself dragging the bodies. Like that's a really compelling sequence when they're realizing that bodies are still coming down. And his battalion still doesn't know that it was like him up there. Or the
whole ridge is like a really cool set piece.
Yeah,
It is, yeah.
the Sam Worthington character when he finally realizes it. But then it takes like a little breather. It reminds me. I keep bringing back up Pearl Harbor, but it reminds me of how like Pearl
You just
Harbor.
love Pearl Harbor,
It
don't
had
you?
the whole war.
Mike has a crush on
This is
Pearl
this is a
Harbor.
complaint. This is a complaint about Pearl Harbor though. How it had the
Team
whole.
Josh or Team Ben?
It had the whole war or attack sequence, and then they had like, oh, now we have to have the retaliation, which was like
Right.
the second like tape of the movie, which fucking sucked.
Yeah, because it was too big for two.
Yeah.
We talked about this on the Scout episode. If it was more than one VHS tape,
It was a good movie.
it was a good movie.
Well, wasn't
If
Lord
you're
of
a
the
kid.
Rings 2 VHSs?
Lord of the Rings is a good movie.
Yeah, it was a great movie. Pearl
your
Harbor
point.
was not.
But it takes like a little breather when he's back at camp and he's slow motion shower sequence to wash the blood off.
Yes.
No, that was hot. Keep
And
it
then
in.
that was bad.
Sam Worthington comes up to him, and I don't mind this scene because he's kind of admitting that he was wrong about him. It's cheesy, but it's a payoff for what the entire movie has essentially been about. That's fine. But then he asks him to come back into battle with them, and they go back up, and we essentially get a truncated version of what we saw in the first 5 minutes of the movie to kind of just rushedly like end the movie at that point out. And then it ends with him on the fucking stretcher being carried out.
Yeah.
Was that literally the last scene of the movie besides
was.
the post-credit sequence? Yeah, fucking garbage.
Well, there was just no third act, and
Why wouldn't we have a scene?
Kick the grenades into Japanese.
He was married to
soldiers?
his wife until 1991. Why wouldn't we have a scene when she died in 1991? Why wouldn't we have a scene of him going back to his wife if we're going to spend all the time in the beginning of the movie like developing this relationship, watching them like fall in love, get married, and then the war starts and we just don't have any more scenes with her anymore?
Yeah, we really don't care about her.
But wait.
Also,
did
how do
he?
you bicycle connect kick a grenade?
He also palm slapped
He
one,
slaps
too.
one.
Yeah.
He's just like grenade acrobat. And they also all explode like 3 inches from him, and he's like, "Oh, I got a leg wound." Like kind of like.
Wait,
and it's just
did he
kinda
throw
like-
it into the Japanese or?
He
Didn't he kill
kicked
someone?
He kicked it back at the Japanese, but exploded like 3 inches from his leg and like 3 feet from the Japanese.
But
And all the Japanese were like, "We're all dead now."
Didn't one of the grenades like kill a bunch of the Japanese? And he's saying, "Oh, I'm not gonna like kill anybody."
Yes,
there's a
yes,
war."
exactly.
And then
Yes. He
like,
kicked
took
it.
out like half of the
I'll kick a
Japanese.
grenade.
Yeah. That's so true.
He's like playing dodgeball with the grenades.
He is.
And that looks so fabricated. Like that was just a really like
It'd be funny if at the end they have like an interview with Desmond Dawson. He's like, "And then I did a bicycle kick with a grenade."
It was really cool.
it was
It was
pretty
kind of like
sick.
FIFA 2016.
You ever
Where
play
you get your power up and you're allowed to do a special kick in front of the goal.
You know, Lewis knows.
And we're like, hold on, who has the Desmond Doss mask on? And it's just Mel Gibson, and he's like, I'm sorry.
I thought it was like FIFA. Who has the Desmond Doss skins?
And just Louis from One Direction, he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I cheated.
I have the Desmond Doss cheats on. It's because you're beautiful.
We're getting into weird territory now. We're in one direction. We're going in one direction.
Too far in one
stop.
direction.
It's not the right direction to go in.
But it is one.
Sabri opens her door.
You guys ready for some ratings, though?
Let's give these ratings.
We trying to finger right now?
I think we're ready to finger.
I want to finger.
I can't do that. It's against
I'm
Christ's
gotta
will.
conscientiously object.
Consciously object from fingering.
Somebody needs to do that to my wife.
Someone else besides me, and I need to watch.
I'm a cuck.
I'm a cuck. This is who I am. It's not a phase.
Somebody leave a synonym suggestion with something having to do with cuck.
Yes,
and I'll
please.
pick it.
Except for Dan Martin, because he's left too many.
Yes.
On review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes. I'm just kidding, Dan Martin. You can leave more. On review aggregator
Don't.
Rotten Tomatoes.
You're all we have. Okay.
We miss you, Dan.
He listens to like every episode. We love you, Dan.
Please come on the podcast. On review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes, the film has an approval rating of 87% based on 174 reviews, with an average rating of 7.2 out of 10.
What does that translate to fingers?
3,
Okay.
I think. I don't know.
We're-
Math.
Wait, 7 out of 10 is not 3?
3.5.
What's
Probably
half?
3.5.
What's-
Because 3 would be, what,
6.
5?
Yeah, cut
Or no,
7 and a
6, yeah,
half.
6.
Cut whatever that score is in a half. And it's what was it? 7?
3.5.
Okay, 3.5. Okay.
It would round down to 3.5. Yeah. That's a good idea. Cut it in half. Math.
Yeah.
The site's critical consensus reads, Hacksaw Ridge uses a real-life pacifist's legacy to lay the groundwork for a gripping wartime tribute to faith, valor, and the courage of remaining true to one's convictions. Okay.
That's weird how there was like a burp in that.
Yeah, why would
description.
anybody
Yeah.
burp during their review?
In
Stage
asterisks,
direction.
yeah.
Burp.
Burp.
It's a weird critical consensus. I don't know.
Burp out of 10. What does this mean? Is this... I'm trying to put it into fresh or rotten. I don't know what it is.
Any volunteers to go first?
I'll go first since you go first next week.
How do you know?
I can see through the future, Mikey. Oh man, I really don't have a lot to say about this. I feel like I've laid it all out there. So this is gonna be a short review. I say this every time. Literally, I mean, it was just a. I saw the trailer, and then, which I was like, oh boy, like, how is this getting so much? Like, how did this get a fucking huge standing ovation that lasted 8 minutes?
9 minutes.
Yeah, 9
and
minutes.
40 seconds.
9
He
minutes,
timed it.
47 seconds.
It's not a biased time at all.
That we're just gonna have to take Mel Gibson's word on.
There's like one person next to him who just keeps clapping for like 5 minutes. It's still going. It's still going.
Mel's just clapping.
They make him stop clapping because he has to do like the Q&A.
9 minutes.
Cool.
It's a world record.
Yeah.
No, it isn't, Mel. Here it is.
I invited Guinness here. Where's the beer company? Beer.
Kidnap him.
Oh boy. But yeah, I went in with the trailer, which is terrible, and came out only appreciating it just a little more. This movie was kind of bad from start to finish. It had some good scenes in it. Again, one of my favorite scenes is with the dad. I forget the fucking actor's name again.
Hugo Weaving.
Agent Smith.
That
Elron.
All right.
that was one of my favorite scenes.
Throw the ring into the fire.
But yeah, I really don't have a lot to say. I mean, I love a lot of Mel Gibson flicks.
Pictures.
Pictures.
Fuck you, Grandpa Nick. Flicks.
That's not my name.
Hey, you fucking Jack!
It's fun. His dad was named Nick. So, because my dad has Grandpa Nick.
But again, I mean, I love Apocalypse. I loved Braveheart.
Apocalypse Now? Yeah, it's great.
I don't know. Even Passion of the Christ, it was okay, kind of thing. But this movie was just kind of like, it was goofy. It was weird casting. Almost everybody cast in this movie was weird and almost didn't work besides Hugo Weaving. Jeez. I just really don't have that much to say about this film, so I'm just going to drop my rating. It's just one finger.
One finger? Damn.
One finger.
Which finger is it, Joe? Yeah. Again, no, please turn it off.
Thank God I wasn't.
Turn it off.
You almost killed me a few minutes ago with that.
Turn it off. In the theater, I didn't hate this movie as much as it probably comes off. Like,
yeah,
I hated it now. There are some really enjoyable sequences in it, mainly the war sequence going on. And there are bits and pieces of the boot camp sequence that I think serve a good purpose and are entertaining. And it's a good-looking movie, and it does tell a good war story, I think, in the end. But like Joe said, it's awfully casted, like, pretty much in every aspect. Even Hugo Weaving, as much as I think he's a great actor and is a great actor in this, his accent does not hold up for most of the movie. It breaks the immersion for me a little bit. It doesn't totally stay consistent the entire time. Vince Vaughn is awful as the drill sergeant.
He tried really hard.
Even Sam Worthington, like, literally just in physical stature, does not look commanding enough to be like the battalion commander above Vince Vaughn, who's this tall like guy. And
I'm gonna give Hollywood some kudos for not trying to force Sam Worthington as the lead actor to us again. Like,
oh god, and
that was a rough.
Even
period.
Andrew Garfield, he's hard to sympathize with as a leading man because of how fucking goofy looking he is. Like, his hair, it works more in a more modern movie. It works in Social Network, not that he's a leading man in that, but it works in like a modern hairstyling of like, oh, just like swoop his hair back.
Well, he looks like a modern hipster.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's all World War II movies now, is that they'll just do like the Hitler Youth haircut where they're just like, and then they slick the hair back, kind of.
But Andrew Garfield hair goes like way fucking up.
It's elevated.
And so combine that with like the World War II era like costume of like the big like wide legged pants and like the belt and the fucking like vest on top of like it looks so goofy. It's hard to relate to him, and then the writing for his character and just the way that things are changed with the story. And again, it really bugged me how much the soundtrack sounded like Harry Gregson Williams' Chronicles of Narnia soundtrack.
I didn't even notice it before the Japanese tunes.
There are sequences in it like like when when like the kids are like climbing the mountain in that very first sequence with them, and then when Andrew Garfield is climbing the mountain again with what's her face? His girlfriend at the time.
I don't know what her name is. She was really attractive.
Teresa Palmer, I think, is the actress.
When he rapes her on the top of the mill.
Hey, I'm not gonna save you unless you give me a kiss.
Yeah, I'll let you fall unless you kiss me. Okay.
If you push me, I'm gonna drag you down with me. Yo, ain't nobody can hear you up here.
She tripped in front of the car. I mean, unless you kiss me.
You know. If I pulled you away from that car. That means
also,
you gotta.
World War II era like cars almost hitting people apparently was a fucking huge problem.
They go like 30 miles per hour max, and they were sitting down like they were convertible, like fucking.
They were made of steel though, so if you got hit, it was it.
It was like literally like.
But they were like.
It was the plot point like 4 or 5 different times. It was like, wow, almost got hit by that car again. Like they had to have like suspense in like the non-war part, and it was like,
But yeah, in those sequences when they're climbing up the mountain, that's when it literally sounds like Chronicles of Narnia. Exactly. To a point that it bugged me, like, because not only is a ripoff, it doesn't fit with the movie that we're going to end up getting in the end of the movie. It's not an adventure movie. It's a war movie. And it tries to be extremely gritty, a war movie at that. Like, the violence is very over the top in the war sequences.
Yeah.
And it's not the type of thing where, like, having humor, having romance, having adventure, having brightness in the first half of the movie, it doesn't make the second half better. It doesn't make it darker. It just makes it fucking weird to have these two halves of that movie.
It's very jarring in a bad way.
And then that combined with like the historical inaccuracies, the fact that he didn't want this movie to be made about himself and they made it anyway, and then used his footage at the end of the movie.
They waited for him to die.
Fuck the Desmond Doss estate for like agreeing to like allow all that to happen.
They did like a huge press conference about like apparently like they made up that his son cried during like the script. It was like very weird and dirty.
Especially because like he said
like they had sex with his son until he cried during the movie.
They said the one reason that he didn't want
the review's getting weird. Mike, you keep talking. I need to stop.
He took Desmond Doss's son up to a mountain and said it'd only help him up if he kissed him.
I'm gonna push you off unless you kiss
me.
Mel. And then put him in like the middle of like a crash up derby with like cars from the 90s.
He's just dodging cars on the mountain.
Yeah, but I think there's a good half of the movie, and it's not perfect, but it's a decent movie in there. There's probably a good.
Oh, the Vince Vaughn half.
No, I mean he's in it. I think the war half of the movie is probably a 3.5 or 4-finger movie if you had just focused on that tone, that style, and that movie of that story there. But they throw so much schlock and like weird, unfitting like garbage in the first half of the movie that completely undermines everything that they do succeed in doing in the second half of the movie, that it becomes a less than average movie. So I'm gonna give it 2 fingers.
I love you. I love all the uses of schlock.
Schlock.
It's very red letter media.
I have to, agree with a lot of what both of you said. There is a good movie somewhere. I think the action sequences, the whole war sequences, are fantastic. I am very into Mel Gibson's like action direction, like with Braveheart, with Apocalypto, even like with him whipping Jesus. So I'm like even the Passion of the Christ. Like, by God, that has a lot of flaws. It was a entertaining movie. Well, not entertaining, but it wasn't a horrible movie. But yeah, the beginning just dragged so long, and the fact that I couldn't even place what was the first act, what was the second act, what was the third act. Vince Vaughn was in True Detective season 2 form. Sam Worthington was basically just reciting lines. Andrew Garfield, you could tell he was
just trying to maintain that American accent.
Yes, I'm glad Hollywood stopped trying to make Sam Worthington the next big thing. We appreciate it. But like, he was very neutral in this role. But no, most of the beginning you could cut out. We didn't need to see the romance. Do a scene where he meets the cute girl at, I don't know, the hospital, and then, they're married now, or something like that.
Right.
Not like him, like, hey, is this like the Tinder swiping of like the past, like just staring at a girl, creepily smiling, not saying nothing, and if she approves, that's a swipe right.
She didn't push me out of the room. She likes me.
I'm gonna get blood on the second day in a row.
She like bird bugs. I brought her into the forest where I kiss her. Birds.
I take her to the movies and sexually assault her after.
The first time I saw 2 people kiss in the movies, I thought it'd be a good idea in the middle of the road.
Maybe if I just stare at her the whole movie, she's gonna be into that.
Maybe when she say, I don't know about that, I don't like that, maybe you say, maybe we should kiss again.
Yeah, but
the you start just taking off her clothes now. Janai,
no. the non-existent third act or super rush there, because they're like, it takes so fucking long for them to like do that middle battle where they're just trying to take the camp, and then like the climax battle is them running around, slow motion shots of like, oh, is this how I quick scope army men running down the beach, and then all of a sudden quick shot to like the Japanese taking sake shots and like pouring some
End of the world party.
And the fact that like every fucking Japanese soldier is portrayed as like a monster,
like, oh, we surrender.
No,
oh, kamikaze! And I was like, oh no, Mel, why?
and we're naked. Oh,
yeah. It was very reminiscent of. It was just a bastardization of their entire culture. This entire movie.
So there was a lot I liked about this movie, but the things I disliked about them just so overweigh what I liked about it. Mm-hmm. So I have to give it 2 stars, or 2 fingers. Sorry,
fingers,
not stars.
They're fingers, boy.
I gotta finger those 2 stars with 2 fingers.
Nice.
Yeah,
one finger for each star.
1 finger for each star. I do think if you re-edit this movie, you could get it working, but
yeah,
or re-edit the
there's
script.
a good movie somewhere.
Yeah,
maybe.
There's a good movie in the concept of this movie. It's the execution that.
Hey,
falls.
Kickstarter, let's make our own.
Hey, Mel. We think the movie didn't really work. We want to make our own movie.
Desmond Doss didn't want 1 movie made. We're gonna make 2.
I don't want 1 Holly movie.
I want 2.
1 Holly movie would.
I don't want 1 Hollywood movie made about me. I want 2.
Hey, I live in the Hollywood. I can get this made.
Make it.
You know what is in Hollywood? Mostly just homeless millennials who are clearly on heroin. That is Hollywood stretch for you right now.
Sounds a
beautiful.
lot.
And that's our cast.
Can't wait to move out there.
Sounds a lot like New Jersey and Pennsylvania too.
Well, NoHo isn't too bad, but North Hollywood or just regular Hollywood, the strip you think is going to be wonderful, is
Right, yeah.
like Chinese theater. A lot of people selling their rap CDs and homeless tweakers.
Fair enough.
Well, that's going to come out to 1.6 repeating. We'll round that down to 1.5 fingers for Hacksaw Ridge, the horror
Is that a
movie.
Deadpool rating?
What did we give Deadpool? I can't remember. It's been so long.
I'm gonna look it up.
Been doing this dang podcast for so many years. Many moons.
Congrats to you guys for sticking with an idea.
2 fingers. We give Deadpool, so this is
It's worse than Deadpool.
yeah, it's worse than Deadpool.
Worse than Golden Globe nominated Deadpool.
Well, this is Golden Globe nominated
As well.
Hacksaw Ridge. Yeah.
Oh God, I guess we're wrong.
Why
I guess our opinions are wrong.
According to Golden
Globes.
You guys know this is a book, right? I didn't want to. It's BoJack Horseman. When he writes a book and then it wins a Golden Globe nominee, Best Picture. I'm like, yes, that was a part of BoJack Horseman. You guys both watched that fucking movie. And
We've seen it.
I've seen it. It wasn't a big joke in it.
Dad's angry about the specifics of BoJack Horseman again.
Well, I love the BoJack Horseman. Andrew Garfield hates Mondays and loves lasagna.
Forgot about that joke.
Oh, season 1, Goldie.
That brought me many laughs. But let's jump through some plugs here real quick before we hop out of this.
SNL before BoJack Horseman.
You know what? Fuck SNL. They make fun of our president.
You can find us on howmanyfingerspodcast.com. And on there you can sign up for our mailing list. We'd really appreciate it. You'll get a email. That's the hot new trend right now for communication.
Email. Have you heard about
Have
it?
you heard about email?
I am not signed up to that.
You got to sign up for it now.
What, in case it's not on a Thursday?
Yes. On the off case that. Hey, we got
Where am
news.
I gonna know when
We got
there's a new
news and more
episode?
information on there too, Nick.
All our promotions now are every Thursday
I hope
forever.
news is just like updates on your Call of Duty kill death ratios.
It's still below 1.
But now you'll get a new email every Thursday as well, and monthly newsletters and all that good shit. Please subscribe to our YouTube. We would love some subscribers on there. You can find the link on our website, howmanyfingerspodcast.com. Again, howmanyfingerspodcast.bigcartel.com for merch. You can get some sweet koozies, stickers. Once again, we forget to put the stickers out so that we can.
Or you can get a shirt from Joe's trunk.
Or you can buy the shirt that Joe's been wearing and sweating on. Used shirts. No, they are new. They are fresh. And we got a package deal going on there.
You could get them if you want all of us to wear the
Right, yeah. If you
The
want to
shirts.
sweat it on,
If you want
shirt,
a pre-worn shirt for a little bit more money, I will pre-wear a shirt for you.
Riley, just text us.
And then
Hey Riley,
If you want
What'd you
all
think about
Riley's
this?
guys to wear the t-shirt before you get it.
we would love some.
Smells like Kevin, Nick, and Joe. I would love to know what that scent is.
I can't even.
It's a lot of different scents.
We would love some ratings on iTunes if you could as well. It would help us bump our popularity on
Help.
there. And
Please
please
do.
help us. Please rate us on iTunes. We've only got 6.
oh no.
And on our website, you can click on our Amazon link at the bottom left. Anything you purchase in the next 24 hours in that browser, after clicking that link, we'll get a little cut of that. It's a nice, easy way to support the podcast without going too far out of your way. And same thing for the iTunes links on our website as well. Anything you purchase in iTunes within 24 hours after clicking that link, we'll get a little cut of as well.
Oh, sir, I just got a huge Amazon gift card. I'm about to get a new monitor, so I guess I'm gonna throw a little bit of
You're gonna have to click
Throw
on how
a
many
little
fingers.
bit of change our way.
That's like a $250
See, guys?
monitor.
Is
You're
that
gonna get
easy?
A little tiny cut.
Little cut.
Little
Tiny cut.
Little break off a little.
Break off a little bit of that change, huh?
And you can find Nick at twitch.tv/TumbledoreZ and
Or my
Twitch
Twitter.
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 My Twitter has been like, I just got 50 followers within the last week.
They think that's funny.
It's hilarious.
Nick,
no.
50 followers.
50 followers.
Did you know Harry Styles isn't that hot?
Good joke. He is gorgeous.
Dunkirk 2017.
Prepare for that. I'm sorry, Christopher Nolan fans. It's come to this. He made that casting choice.
I guess my Twitter account is not guess. I know my Twitter account. Twitter.com/YoTumbledore.
All right.
Because Tumbledore and Tumbledore Z were already chosen. But come follow me. I'm almost at 2,000 followers.
Yo,
Please.
Dumbledore.
Yo,
Dumbledore.
Oh boy. So 1.5 fingers for Hacksaw Ridge, the racist
Spooky horror movie.
yeah, from Mel Gibson.
Oh, that's about it for this podcast.